Welcome back to the Peak Performance Podcast. I'm Shane Kelly, and before we get into this episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about this mini series I'm doing with high school coaches. So, I will be interviewing a total of 8 coaches who have all won state titles, a ton of district titles, and have been voted as NFHS National Coaches of the Year. These individuals are at the top of high school sports in general. And there is so much information to be learned from all of them, whether it be coaching high school sports, coaching in general, or just how to treat people and optimize performance. This next episode is with a coach named Kyle Peacocke. He is the former head coach of the girls softball team at Jackson High School in Washington, but he has stepped down from the coaching position and now works as the school's athletic coordinator. In his 25 years of coaching, he is a 4-time state champion, holding an overall coaching record of 457 wins to 148 losses. He's an 8-time Washington State Coach of the Year, and as mentioned, NFHS National Coach of the Year. The knowledge gained from these coaches extends far beyond just high school sports. It's how to treat people, how to grow, how to optimize performance, and truly how to make lifelong memories for these athletes. It's worth a listen because these individuals are so far and few between. They are one of a kind at what they do and at the very top of their field. I hope you enjoy it and give it a listen.
Uh, okay, yeah. So I was talking about just kind of. I think you asked me about how I got into it, and like I said, when I was in high school, I had teachers, well, coaches who were teachers, and I made strong connections with those people who made a big impression on my life. And I realized pretty much when I was like a junior and senior in high school that I wanted to kind of be the same role model influence. And kind of give back to what those guys all gave to me.
So going back into when you were still coaching, how would you describe your coaching style? How did you treat your athletes? How did you kind of run your program?
Yeah, I would say that my coaching style changed a little bit about halfway through my coaching career. I would say early on, um, I was pretty intense, pretty demanding. It's kind of my way or the highway. I mean, obviously, I'd still build relationships with players, and that was important. But um, I think the one thing that I learned over time, and then the second half, kind of back half of my career, when we really started being successful, was I started giving over some of that power and some of those decisions and some of the I don't know, ownership, I guess, to my team leaders uh, and captains, and I think that was really beneficial in our success, especially winning a bunch of state championships and a bunch of district championships. Once I kind of realized that the players really need a voice, and like I said, they need ownership. They need to feel that they have value. I mean, they're the ones who are competing and playing. As coaches, we try and make decisions and um, put them in the best situation and do the best things for your team. But it's for me. One thing I really learned is that you really just have to have the buy-in from your players, and kind of instill the importance of what your goals are, because you want them to be as successful as possible for each team that I had. That was kind of my goal. Is okay. This is kind of the talent that we have, um, and I want this group of players to reach their maximum potential. And like I said, that all kind of came together when myself and my assistant coaches and really brought our team leaders on board before the season started, and then throughout the year, we would trust them with a lot of decisions. Sometimes I'd run things by them. Sometimes they would talk to me about different things. I think that's really important as we establish, the ability to have open communication and your players feel like they can talk to you about anything, and including things that are going on in their lives. Because it's really important for them to know that you care about them as people, um, not just your athletes.
Well, I think it's huge that you brought up the idea of buy-in. Um, when you're listening to your players more, having that open communication, it not only does create that buy-in that they're looking for or that you're looking for, but it also gives them a sense of ownership in the team, builds trust with you because they feel like they can speak their mind and they're not going to be, judged for it. They're not going to be looked at differently for speaking their opinions. It just kind of has an element of bringing the entire team together to unify everything. So that's excellent. How have you taken what you've learned over your 25 years of coaching and used that in your new role as the athletic coordinator at the high school?
I think the biggest thing is having perspective. I've been in so many different situations um, with players and with parents, and kind of with the perception of the program, your program's interactions with like your school and community. And so just having kind of a depth of experience. Um, I've been able to kind of share some things with different coaches of different sports now, like offer them, say, they might come to me with a question. I said, well, this similar thing happened at this time, and just kind of able to provide them with some ideas about how I dealt with things. And sometimes being honest, even like with my players, like I will tell coaches, like, I tried this one time and that did not work very well, so I would not recommend doing that. But just having the ability to share real world experiences with our coaching staff here at the high school, I think that's really important. And I would, as a teacher, early in my career, we always had administrators who've been in the classroom for a long time, and it was easy to just kind of have automatic respect because you knew that what they were telling you they had been through, and it's kind of been a transition um, in high school administration, and a lot of them get into it earlier without that experience. And so, I mean, I think as it applies to athletic directing, I think that's important that your coaches know that you had experience, kind of going through the things that they've been going through. Um, and then, a big thing is, kids and parents have changed a lot, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. They need they need more kind of love, I call it. They need to make sure that they feel connected. And a lot of it is social media is really really important for them, and that they're getting attention and doing things. So um, I did a lot of that my own when I was coaching, but a lot of our booster parents do that stuff now. So one of the things that we do is we meet with them, and we always try and make sure that each one of our teams has some sort of social media presence that's highlighting positive things in their program.
And that the whole implementing social media into high school sports, that's a very new concept to me. Because I graduated high school 2019. There was not a single sports team at my high school or in my school district that had an account posting highlights, player profiles, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and
And
honestly, so I had just started that like right around probably 2017, 2018. And I was kind of running as a coach. And at that particular time, our softball program was having a lot of success. We won the state championship in 2018 and 2019. And a lot of our other schools, like our baseball teams or other sports, were saying, like, hey, how come we can't get, X posts and Instagram posts and things like that? Uh, and and I'm not saying I'm the one that started it, but it was right around that time when you started to see other programs in our league and kind of around the state, and you see kids kind of post different things. And then I think just kind of the way that college athletics has gone now, and professional, so many of those guys they have their own accounts and they're promoting themselves essentially, and so you're really starting to see that kind of creep down into the high school level. Um, and for better or worse, it just seems to be that that's kind of the trend of where things are right now, and it's important to the parents and the kids that that's there.
No, I think it's awesome. I coached soccer this past season at one of the high schools in the area, and I wasn't able to go to a lot of the varsity games because I was coaching at the Frosh level.
Sure,
And through the Instagram, I was able to get game highlights almost immediately. I knew what the score was. They had videos of the goals, and it was just a way for me to follow a team that I wasn't there to see.
sure,
Yes, I could have looked on Max Preps in a couple hours and seen the score, but that it's not the same as seeing the video, seeing the highlights. And
right,
I know for the school I worked at, it helped a lot with sponsorships from local businesses,
yeah,
giving back
absolutely.
to the programs. It's helped a lot of the varsity players get opportunities to play at the college level after graduation
Mhm.
that, yes, they might have had otherwise, but the social media helped with that. Teams
Right.
were able to see what they were doing in game. And it wasn't, oh, my dad records the games and we're going to stitch together a video real quick. It was really well done.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's honestly within the last, I think, 10 years at most, but it's something I really do enjoy. And whoever was the first one to do it deserves a lot of props because I think it's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, you see that stuff, I mean, we've seen that stuff growing up on Sports Center, and you see the things with professional teams and college teams. But, when you have a chance to have that on a smaller scale, but because, social media is so prevalent, it can reach so many different people. And
Oh
like
yeah.
you said, having a quick way and ability to just kind of, hey, put this little highlight reel out there, put this clip out together. Hey, this happened in this game. Um, for softball, for fast pitch softball and baseball, we use a program called Game Changer, and it videotapes, it records the game, but it also kind of has a box score running live. But what that has allowed people to do is take clips really easily, because it like takes a clip on every single pitch, and then like you can take it off of there and pretty easily put that into an X post or an Instagram post or Instagram story.
It's just the technology has made everything so easy. Like I wasn't in high school that long ago, but it required so much more work if you wanted to have a highlight tape to put together and send to coaches.
Yeah.
It One of my teammates, his dad would record every game, and then for 2 to 3 hours after the game, my buddy would have to sit at his computer, stitch stuff together, edit stuff together, and it was like an all-night process. And now it's just there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. My wife used to, back in the early days, she used to make our end of the year videos for our team banquets. And she would she would take pictures, right? And so she would end up making like this video montage with music, but it was just of like still pictures. Uh, but she would spend like hours and hours and hours doing this, and she was pretty good at it. But like the what we have now with video, and I mean, what she would spend maybe 20, 30 hours working on, somebody could do in probably 3 or 4 hours right now.
It's beautiful. So going back to when you were coaching, how would you describe the culture that your softball team had? Obviously carried a lot of success, but What did it feel like to be a part of that team, and how would you describe it?
Uh, I mean that we definitely had kind of a family mentality. Um, we're the Timberwolves, so we always talk about ourselves as a pack. Uh, and we kind of we created this kind of some descriptors and things that we wanted to be, just in terms of being, uh, all in team first, uh, realizing and visualizing success. We wanted to be fun and energetic. Uh, and those teams were all my a lot of my successful teams were just all on the same page. It was a combination of having fun, but being totally locked in and focused, uh, like between the lines, and when each pitch happened, um, and we were able to create kind of in practice this fun, lively atmosphere. We'd play a lot of music, especially during batting practice, but even during kind of drill periods, we're kind of going through everyday drills. Um, Kids would challenge each other, but they goof around with each other and have a good time. So there was a level of trust, and it's kind of a fine line because you want to be successful and you have goals, of winning certain things, league titles, district titles, state titles. Um, so you just kind of over time you have to develop this fine line of being loose, but being serious and intentional about all having the same end goal, and getting those teams there. One thing that was just kind of really awesome is we had kids buy into roles sometimes. Um, that didn't get a ton of playing time, but maybe they ran bases or were defensive replacement or they're really good bunter, so we put them in certain situations. Even my own daughter was a freshman and sophomore on the first year state championship team, and we had really good teams. And basically, her role was to be a courtesy runner for my pitcher, who was a really good hitter. And she ended up leading the league in stolen bases and runs scored. And literally, she was just a base runner. Probably 75% of the time she was on the field.
I always love hearing those stories about like kind of bench players for a season that have their role and excel in it. It resonates home with me. My junior year, when I was playing soccer, I was a bench player. I did not see the field unless we were like 5 minutes or so left in the game because I had a really long throw in. So if
Oh
we were
yeah,
in the attack and we got to throw it out of bounds, I would just stand up. My coach would sub me in. I'd throw the ball as hard as I could,
yeah,
and I ended up like I was second or third in the team in assists, and I played like 15 minutes all year.
that's awesome.
But I loved having that role. It was the most relaxed thing I could do. I just sat and watched the game, and then if they needed something at the end, I would step in. But
Yeah, and that's
uh,
that's really hard for people to accept, and so I'm sure it sounds like your coach had a good rapport and relationship with you. Um, and I would just add to that as a coach, you're able to get players to do that if you also treat everybody, uh, the same. You have obviously your stars and your good players on the team, but if everybody in the program, feels important, and they really feel that from the coaching staff and from their players, that whenever they get an opportunity to do something, they want to go out there and make an impact, and they feel like they're important in that.
it's it's something I actually talked about with one of the other coaches I interviewed. The importance of, like you said, making everybody on the team feel welcome, feel important, feel special, not just the top people that are going to go play in college, D1, the end of the bench. Like because that's how you unify the entire team. If the best players are getting different treatment, everybody else is going to feel sort of resentment
Hmm.
towards both the coach and those other players.
Right.
Because like why should they have different rules than the rest of us? It's just not fair. So while doing a bit of a deep dive, preparing for this, I found a quote from NFHS
Hmm.
about you that I'm assuming is a quote from you. Um,
Okay.
I just wanted to read it to you and kind of talk about that a little bit. It
Sure.
said you believe in, quote, developing well-rounded student athletes who value education, family, community, and team, strives to instill values of character, integrity, work for themselves, and treating all with respect, and putting the needs of others and the team above themselves. And where did this idea come from? It's all great stuff, but is this something maybe stolen from another coach, something that kind of slowly developed over time, or is it something you walked in the door with and you were firm on?
I mean, I would say the fullness of that definitely developed over time. Um, and when coaches say things, players have to know that they mean what they say. So those words can't just be words. They have to be felt throughout the program for people to believe in them. Um, when I was just getting started in this, I was actually finishing up college, and I was an assistant football coach at Inglemoor High School, uh, and their defensive line coach was the head softball coach, and he was talking to me throughout the season about coming out. And long story short, he called me 2 weeks before the season. He said, "This isn't a choice. If you want to be a high school teacher and coach, you need to come out here and have all these varied experiences. So I expect to be at practice on Monday." So, I went out there, and I didn't know anything about his softball program. I mean, at the time, I was, you know, football, baseball kind of guy, and um, he had an amazing team, but he was able to create like this atmosphere where like all the players bought in. They all wanted the same thing. They all worked hard. They all um, had fun together. But then they did, and he created things, that were sort of outside the game, um, with different, gatherings and get-togethers and team dinners and things that they would have. And um, his ability to talk to the kids about their lives and about what's going on at home, what's going on at school, sort of really resonated with me. And I would say I carried some of those things with me as I started as a head coach a few years later, and as a first year teacher. But I think being a teacher definitely helps kind of finish out some of that stuff because I see so many different students, and student athletes in the classroom, um, who, you know, they need to feel like they belong in the classroom or on the athletic field for them to thrive. Uh, I've seen so many kids who just kind of sit in the background and maybe they don't have confidence or they don't feel like people care about them. Uh, and then all of a sudden you start having a conversation with them, you start encouraging them, um, you start to include them, and they all of a sudden like they do things that maybe they didn't even know that they could do. Uh, and I think this it's kind of all a part of like what being well-rounded in yourself has helped bring out the best in others. Is I mean, ultimately as a team, no matter how good you are as an individual, or you might have an individual player who's amazing, you're never going to be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve without your teammates. And getting them to understand that is so critical. Like you might be a star, but if you have a big ego and your teammates don't like you, your team's gonna end up crumbling at some point in time because you have people who don't respect each other. So just trying to kind of foster that idea. Um, and as far as how we went about doing that, I mean, we had a lot of different things that we would do. Those games that we would play, but a lot of times uh, with our hitting in particular, we would intentionally vary, who the hitting partners were and hitting groups were, and we would challenge them with early on the season to get to know every single teammate. So, you need in the first month of the season, you need to have at least one or two hitting sessions with your partner who's a different person, right? So there's kind of little things like that.
Well, no matter what the sport is, especially in a team-based sport like softball, you could have one player win you a game, 100%. You could have one player even win you a series. But in order to win the state title, the district title, you do need the team. And I like that you made them switch up their hitting partners because at the high school age, they all have their cliques, they have their group. These are my 2 to 3 best friends on the team. And you get these little pockets of athletes that it's not even like being rude to others. It's just they're comfortable around these people. They're their favorite people.
Yeah.
So you get these pockets of different athletes throughout your team. So by switching it up, it's an idea I haven't thought of before, but it kind of blends those lines. I do really like that. How are you able to keep your athletes motivated after like sustained success, multiple state titles, a, a dozen or so league titles?
Uh, so in with yeah, I kind of coached at two different schools. So the first half of my career, I was at Everett High School, and the second half I was at Jackson High School. Um, and really, it was just kind of building on success. So, because when I took over my first high school job, that team had never had a winning season before. Like the year before, I was a volunteer assistant, and I think they finished 500, and they were like, it was like they won the Super Bowl. They were so excited because they finally had a 500 season, and like I was blown away that like that would be what they would celebrate as success, which I get if you've never done that before. It's amazing, but I guess this idea of progress and like you want to be as good as you can be individually. You want to be as good as you can be as a team, and you want to continue taking things to the next level and next step. So I was at Everett High School. It was like we wanted to make the playoffs, and then we wanted to make the state playoffs, and then we wanted to build and progress on how we were doing. So it was we kind of did that, all along, over the course of 12 years. There might have been a year or maybe a step back, but ultimately, and then at Jackson, um, the two state championship teams were sort of different. There was back to back in 2018 and 2019, and then again in 23 and 24. Um, Completely two different groups, and obviously COVID was in the middle of that, so we had 2 years where we didn't even have playoffs in spring sports in the state of Washington. Um, so the amazing thing is that we were able to continue the success we had before COVID with two different completely groups of people. Um, but I think we got to a point where like it was just kind of about being the standard. You know, winning the second title, the teams were both almost more motivated to repeat than they were to win it the first time. Um,
Interesting.
for us, our fast pitch state tournament is crazy because it takes place over 2 days, and so the way it's set up is if you win the first two games on Friday, you're in the semifinals on Saturday, and then if you win that, you're in the state championship. So you play 2 games Friday, 2 games Saturday. But if you go 1-1 on Friday, you have to play a third game on late Friday night. And it is like the worst feeling in the world. You're exhausted. You just want to go to bed. And we had some years before that where that's what ended up happening to us. And we knew we were close. But it was almost like a motivation to not have to play that third game on a Friday night. Until you're in that situation, you don't know what it feels like and how. I mean, it was a constant discussion amongst the kids. Like, no, we want to play 2 games on Friday and 2 games on Saturday. We don't want to play 6 games in 2 days.
That sounds exhausting. I do think it's interesting you brought up they were almost more motivated for the second championship after the first.
Yeah,
So
I
many
mean,
coaches I've heard from um, talk about how the only thing harder than winning one championship is winning a second one. Why do you think
yes.
it was they were more motivated the second time around?
So, and I don't know. I did like I can say for you, like in my life, I always had sort of an underdog mentality. Um, and I wasn't the biggest guy in the world, and I played high school football, and I always kind of had a little chip on my shoulder because I was this little guy, and people would maybe underestimate me or didn't think I could do certain things, and I always kind of wanted to prove people wrong. And I know that that's something that whether it's things that I intentionally said or over time, and we constantly, my team, we would constantly talk about those things. Like we wanted to do things that people said you can't do, or you're not good enough, or you're not going to be able to do it again. And I think I have had amazing assistant coaches who worked with me that were kind of on the same page with that. Like, yeah, we won a championship, but how much sweeter would it be to win again, right? So um, it hadn't been done a lot in the state of Washington, honestly. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but so we're the first program 4A, which is the highest level in Washington State. We're the first 4A fast pitch team to have won 4 state titles in fast pitch softball. There was there was 2 schools that had won 3, and so we're now the first ones to win 4. And even though those teams were separate, I think the history of the program, that was what's really cool is once you start getting a program that has sustained success, like, and you reach out and you're working with your younger kids. Because I coached at the middle school as well. One of my assistant coaches did, and we had connections with Little League. And it's like you just sort of get this buzz, and like everybody wants to be a part of it. And then when they get there as players, like they want to do those things, right? So it's I would say it's more than just the school, but it's like this kind of community mentality around fast pitch softball.
That's awesome. And it seems to be a common theme that I didn't expect to come up is these national coaches of the year, coaches like yourself, all these state titles that also coached at the middle school age, which is very interesting to me. But it does create that whole community and gives those kids what they're like 11 or 12 something to look forward to that if they continue working, developing and growing as an athlete, they can be a part of a great program.
Yeah, and I think it's just super helpful just in terms of getting to know the kids too, and them getting to know you. And obviously, like when I coached in middle school, it's completely different. Um, it's it's a lot more laid back. I mean, you those teams you have like half the kids are maybe really good, and maybe half the kids have never played before or playing for the first time. So you kind of set it up a little bit differently, but you utilize your best players to help bring those other kids along. But yeah, it's just kind of I don't know, extending yourself and your program down to the lower levels so you have these connections and I almost like a feeder program, even though You can't really say that, but yeah, kind of makes that.
Well, what advice would you give based on your experience, both as a coach and now as the athletic director, to help a new coach, maybe they're in their first couple of years, improve their own team culture and help them find success at whatever sport or level they might be at?
Um, First of all, foremost, I would always tell a coach that they can't try and 100% emulate someone else. Like every one of us is unique and we have our own personality. Um, and so you can't be exactly like somebody else. Your voice is unique, right? So you got to be true to who you are. But I would also say, and I would encourage coaches, like you need to watch and learn from successful coaches. Um, Probably my first 12 years of coaching, um, I had this one particular coaching clinic that I would go to every single year. It was like a weekend thing, and I would just go and just kind of be a sponge and listen and learn. And sometimes people say things and it's like, okay, well, I don't really believe in that, so you can kind of discard that. But if you go and you pick up at least one thing from each time that you go, um, you're learning. And I would say about me, like, I know it sounds cliche, but like, I truly consider myself to be like a lifelong learner. I never ever felt like I knew everything or I know everything. I always feel like I can learn something from other people. And I think that's advice that I would say is that, don't think that you know everything. And the person and the coach that you are in year one, um, probably shouldn't be the person you are as a person and coach in year five, because you should sort of adapt over time, um, and demonstrating growth in your ability to coach and reach young people.
Well, thank you. Um, that's all the questions I had. I really appreciate you taking the time. I gained a lot from this conversation.
Yeah,
Do you have
absolutely.
any parting words, stories you want to give before we head out?
I mean, I just talking to you a little bit. You seem like a great guy, and just kind of reading. I read your LinkedIn thing, and I saw your email, and just good luck to you. And looks like you have some really cool things that you're going to be doing in your life, just kind of based on what you're working on right now. So yeah,
Well, thank you
and
so much. I
anytime,
appreciate it.
if you want to hit me up later on, I'm good with that too. So yeah.
All right. I might take you up on that.
All right, Shane. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you again for the time.
All right, no problem. Take care.
You as well.